Well, this is as real as it gets. We are with India's tank formations in Suratgarh's Mahajan ranges, perhaps the largest tank firing ranges in this part of the world.
It can't get bigger than this. Desert warfare in its conventional garb is almost always a clash of titans. This is where the terror of a modern-day battlefield comes alive, when mechanized vehicles rumble and roar on desert sands through extreme conditions of heat and cold in search of their prey. But beware, even the hunter here can get hunted, as lost desert trails and thirsty tank men can cripple even the strongest army. Preparations take place at the Mecca of desert field firing ranges in India, on sand dunes of the Mahajan ranges in Suratgarh. Armored and mechanized forces along with artillery make their pilgrimage every year to participate in what is commonly called war games. This is where the army fights to train and therefore trains to fight. Actual warlike conditions are simulated to perfection here every year, testing every soldier and his tank's ability to survive. It's a fortnight of dry runs, wet runs and dress rehearsals that culminates in a blatant demonstration of devastating firepower, a glimpse of India's potent strike capability. What's more, these field firing ranges in Rajasthan are less than 100 kilometers away from Pakistan's border. In mechanized warfare, a tank man is as good as his tank, and a tank is as good as its firepower, mobility and armor protection.
This battlefield animal weighs 42.5 tons of sheer metal and steel, and like much of India's mechanized equipment, it too is of Soviet origin, made as it were for Russian conditions of sub-zero degree temperatures. But it has adapted itself rather well to India's hot desert conditions. And as someone has rightly said, while some armies buy equipment to suit their doctrines, others make their tactics around the equipment they have.
The Russian T-72 is one of the lightest tanks, allowing for better maneuverability and fairly high speeds of around 60 kilometers an hour across terrains. Unlike the indigenous Arjun, the T-72 has a smaller silhouette, as it carries only a 3-member crew: the commander, the driver and the gunner. Being small, the T-72 makes for a tougher target for the enemy. But the smaller design has its disadvantages. For one, the seats are cramped like a racing car. Besides, there are fewer eyes to scan the area around the tank. That's right, 10 liters to a kilometer. So even when the 1200-liter fuel tank is topped up, the tank can only do a distance of 120 kilometers without refueling. But with a barrel of fuel carried by most tanks and other refueling possibilities, the operational reach can increase threefold. The main weapon of a modern tank is its gun, the maximum range of which is around 2 kilometers. And statistics suggest that in actual field conditions, the T-72 can fire between 4 and 5 rounds per minute. Apart from the gun, the T-72 carries a machine gun to counter infantry, and the tank is also fitted with an anti-aircraft gun near the commander's turret, often the most visible part of a tank. The flip side of having fancy equipment like this is that it is fuel, ammunition, and very maintenance hungry. It's almost like a modern-day Trojan horse, carrying infantry troops inside its tank-like body right into the heart of the battlefield. Baptized as the BMP-2 and nicknamed Sarath by the Indian Army, these battle taxis of Russian origin are arguably one of the world's best infantry combat vehicles, or ICVs. BMP-2, along with the T-72 tanks, are two of the most potent combat vehicles that the Indian Army can field into battle. While the tank is a more powerful weapons platform, the BMP-2 is more lethal in terms of its mobility, clocking almost 70 kilometers per hour on sand dunes. Weapons loaded, battle plans drawn out, mechanized formations tested. After a fortnight of dry runs, wet runs and dress rehearsals, it's time now for the real field firing action. Time now for India's battle strategists to test the operational readiness of paper tactics on this mock battle theatre. As military maneuvers reach a crescendo and tanks blaze through a stinging sandstorm, the mercury jumps to almost 55 degrees Celsius. But for Squadron Commander Lieutenant Colonel Raj Purohit, it's just another hot day's work in his small but well-ventilated workspace in combat. Most battles are fought at night, in the cover of darkness, when stealth and surprise can steamroll even the best out of business. These night battle runs are generally at close formation, the vehicles barely 50 meters apart, flashing color-coded blinkers to help identify their occupants. If there's one thing that has in the past slowed down and crippled mechanized forces in tank battles, it is the deadly maze of enemy landmines. One such tale is that of 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal of 17 Pune Horse in the 1971 war. Military records reveal that the young officer refused orders to leave his burning deck after his tank got knocked out by a mine at Shakargarh. He went down firing till the very end, destroying many enemy tanks. He was posthumously awarded the Paramveer Chakra, thus creating history for himself, his regiment, and for tank battles. You know, tank trawls and minefields reminds me of a very interesting incident. There are some people who dispute it, but I'd like to believe that in the 71 war, Pune Horse was being commanded by Hanuj Singh, later retired General Hanuj Singh. Hanuj Singh received instructions that his tanks had hit a minefield. He told all the tanks that I'll meditate for the next 10 minutes and I'll come back to you with instructions what to do. 10 minutes later, Hanuj Singh was there and he said to all his tanks, he says, watch my blinkers, follow me through the minefield and I'll lead the way. He led the way with 60 tanks and there wasn't a single casualty, and Pune Horse later won the Battle of Shakargarh. Mechanized warfare is not just about sand and soldiering. At the very heart of being men of honor lie three words: tradition, ceremony, and regimentation.